I'm starting to think some politicians do not truly care about WNBA player safety. They care about the identity of the player who gets fouled. When a black player commits a hard foul against a white player, suddenly they see violence, criminal behavior, and a possible civil rights violation. But when a white player commits a hard foul against a black player, those same politicians usually see basketball. Same league, same court. Two completely different levels of outrage. Welcome back to I'm Starting to Think. I'm your host, Blueprint. And today, we need to talk about how WNBA fouls are being turned into political weapons. Before anyone twists my argument, let me make something perfectly clear. DeJounte Carrington committed a bad foul against Sophie Cunningham. Carrington came from behind during a fast break and struck Cunningham across the head and neck area. The officials reviewed the play, upgraded it to a flagrant 2, and ejected Carrington. That was the correct decision. Carrington deserved to be removed from the game. But the punishment happened. The rule worked. The officials handled it. Sophie Cunningham also got right back up and immediately tried to confront Carrington. She had to be held back. That does not make Carrington's foul acceptable. But it does make all this crime scene language sound exaggerated. Some people are talking like Sophie needed to be carried out on a stretcher while detectives placed yellow tape around the basketball court. Even Stephanie White, Sophie's own head coach, said she did not believe Carrington intentionally tried to hurt her. But apparently, a flagrant 2 and an ejection were not enough for Florida Attorney General James Othmeyer. He responded by saying the WNBA knows better than to play games in Florida because he would be charging people with assault and battery. Assault and battery. Sir, this is a basketball game, not Law and Order, fast break unit. What is next? Will the referees have to review the replay with a prosecutor? Will players receive 2 free throws and a court date? This is where player safety turns into political theater. Carrington made a reckless basketball play and received a basketball punishment. Unless someone commits an obvious attack completely outside the sport, elected officials should not be threatening players with criminal charges over fouls. And this was not the first time politicians inserted themselves into the WNBA. In July, 11 Republican members of Congress sent a letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert concerning physical play against Caitlin Clark. They warned that the league could face federal scrutiny from the Department of Justice, the Department of Labor, and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. One member of Congress even described the physical play against Caitlin as thug-like violence. The Indiana Fever later made it clear that neither the organization nor Caitlin had been involved with this political group or knew about the letter beforehand. So this is not about blaming Caitlin Clark or Sophie Cunningham. This is about politicians using white WNBA players as political symbols while portraying black players as dangerous villains. Because where was this level of concern when Caitlin Clark committed a flagrant foul against Angel Reese? In May of 2025, Caitlin slapped down across Angel's arm hard enough to knock her to the floor. After reviewing the play, the officials upgraded it to a flagrant 1. Was it as severe as Carrington's flagrant 2? No, but it was still officially ruled unnecessary contact. Where were the politicians demanding a civil rights investigation for Angel Reese? Where was the Attorney General threatening Caitlin with assault charges? Nobody called the Department of Justice. Nobody started talking about criminal prosecution. Caitlin described it as a basketball play. Angel later described it as a basketball play. The league handled it as a That is exactly how these incidents should normally be handled. Now let's look at Sophie Cunningham herself. In 2025, Sophie committed a flagrant 2 against J.C. Sheldon. Sophie wrapped her up during a breakaway, sent her to the floor, and helped start a larger confrontation. Sophie was correctly ejected and later fined. But a large part of the public did not portray Sophie as a criminal. They called her an enforcer. They called her a protector. Her aggression was presented as toughness and loyalty. When Carrington received the same flagrant 2 classification, a government official started discussing assault and battery charges. That comparison is not about the race of J.C. Sheldon. It is about how differently America describes white aggression and black aggression. When the white player delivers the hard foul, she is protecting her teammate. When the black player delivers the hard foul, she is supposedly threatening the safety of the entire league. That is the double standard. Some people will argue that Caitlin and Sophie receive more attention because they are popular. That might explain the television coverage. It does not explain politicians threatening federal investigations and criminal charges. The justice system is not supposed to be a popularity contest. Player safety should apply to Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Angel Reese, DeJounte Carrington, Aja Wilson, and every other player equally. If politicians truly care about player safety, then demand consistent officiating for everybody. Demand transparent reviews for everybody. Demand appropriate fines and suspensions for everybody. But do not wait until a white player gets hit before suddenly discovering that the WNBA is physical. Carrington deserved her ejection. Alyssa Thomas deserved her suspension after striking Caitlin in the throat. Caitlin deserved her flagrant 1 for the foul on Angel. Sophie deserved her flagrant 2 for taking down J.C. Sheldon. That is consistency. The problem begins when one player gets an ejection while another player gets turned into the target of politicians, federal agencies, and possible criminal prosecution. The WNBA has a rule book. It does not need politicians sitting at the scorer's table holding handcuffs. Hard fouls are not political. Selective outrage is political. And I'm starting to think some politicians do not want equal protection for every WNBA player. They want certain players protected and certain players punished. So let me know what you think. Do these politicians truly care about every player's safety? Or do they only become outraged when the player being protected is white and useful to their political message? Leave your thoughts in the comments. This has been Blueprint, and I'll see you next time on I'm Starting to Think.